extended work absences among women who are away on parental leave, they may impose costs, non-wage costs, to firms, resulting in lower wages. It takes time and effort for the employer to find somebody that can substitute for the women away on parental leave. And if you are away on parental leave for years, let's say that you have 2 children and you are away from working life for 3 or 4 years, you may lose work experience, a type of human capital. You learn things while you work. And there is a very specific fourth thing here that I'm going to talk about, which is statistical discrimination. Have you ever heard this word before? If you have not heard this word before, please do like this. If you have not. Oh, good. So I'll do some good things here, because I'm going to talk about statistical discrimination, and you will be very clear about what statistical discrimination is when you leave this room. I'll talk about it in 10 minutes. What are the causes of gender wage differences in the Swedish labor market? Are they based on prejudice or rationality, or both? We are now going to see the relative wages of women in relation to men since 1968 to the year of 2000. And if you want to go back so far in time, you have to use special kind of data that is not updated. It's a kind of a panel level of living surveys. So I have to use this data if I want to use data from the 60s, but I'll talk about wage development in the year of 2001 and on also. But as you can see, in 1968, females earned about 70% of the men, and not many women worked then, because most married women were housewives. But the political changes in the late 60s and in the 70s also had effects on Swedish wage formation. So the relative wages started to increase. And in 1981, the women earned, hourly wage of women was a little more than 80% of the men. And if you had asked anyone, I'd say anyone, when will women earn 100% of the men's wages? If you had asked that in 1981, I think people would have said, well, in the year of 2000. As you see, nothing has happened. And the latest figure, which is not from this database, but from another database, but it's quite comparable, is from 2007, and it's 84%. So we have more than a quarter of a century, and nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. Why is that? Do women have shorter education than men? Not really. I'll show you. Do they have much shorter work experience than men? I'll show you. Or are there other explanations at force? Let's take a look at the length of education. And when I've done this speech before, I tried to use red for the men and blue for the women. It doesn't work. I tried to use green and yellow. It doesn't work as well as the traditional colors, red and blue. At least I don't use pink and light blue. But it's a pedagogic, I'm aware of this. As you can see, the general length of education has increased dramatically from 1968 and onwards. And in 1968, actually, the women who worked, they had as long or as short education on average as the men, about 9 years. And then when many housewives started to enter the labor market, the women's relative length in comparison to the men shrank a little bit during some decades. But now the development has taken a different way. Now women have slightly longer education than men. And this figure is from 2000. It's a little bit more accentuated now. So this is a difference that I think going to increase. So the women spend more of their life in education, and they take loans to be educated, but it doesn't seem like they get paid for it. What about the average work experience? There things really have happened. Work experience is another type of what economists call human capital. You learn things while you work. And in 1968, the average woman had 15 years of work experience and the men 23. And as you can see, the differences shrink a lot. Many women work part-time, so what we have tried to do here is to make this what we call full-time equivalencies, which is not the easiest thing to do, but the conclusion that the difference is shrinking, that is based on solid data. If it's exactly 1 year, I can say, but it's shrinking. So women are also accumulating more human capital because they work more, but it doesn't seem like they get paid for it. There is another theory called explanation based on human capital theory. They don't seem like candidates with a sufficient explanatory power. I mean, women are doing all the right things. They are getting longer education, they are working more, they are not getting paid for it. There is another theory called compensating wage differentials, which says that jobs that demand equal length of education, but there are tougher working conditions, it's more physical or psychological tough to work in these jobs, they are paid more, and that's okay. So we have made studies to see if that could be an explanation, that women have the lighter and the top of the cream jobs, and if that's the case, that men earn more, and that is not the case. That is not a good candidate for explanation. So there's something else here. There could be two forms of discriminations here. One is value discrimination that I'm going to talk about, and the other one is statistical discrimination. And when you leave this room, you are going to be very familiar with both subjects. Value discrimination is when, if I say to you, this is a woman's job, what does it say here? This is a woman's job. Not here, here. This is a man's job. What does it say here? Do you feel any difference? Do you? I do. I mean, it's in the wallpapers. I mean, it's like Gertrude said, it's a very long practice. And if you have value discrimination present, you value work that mostly women do less than work that mostly men do. You want to pay less for work that mostly women do, as a taxpayer and as a customer. And if we have value discrimination present, we need a labor market that is segregated by gender, because we must have jobs that most women do and jobs that most men do. And I assure you, we have a gender segregated labor market in Sweden. And then on such a labor market, you should see that female-dominated jobs are paid less than male-dominated jobs. And now we have ruled out the explanations education, work experience, and compensating wage differentials. Those are no longer credible candidates. So if we see this pattern, something is fishy here. These are the blue-collar sectors in 2007. You also have the data from 2002 in your handouts, because those are the ones I showed when I was here 2 years ago, and those have the Spanish labels. But this is the updated figures, and as you can see, nothing really has happened since 2002. You have here the blue-collar sectors, you have the relative wages on this axis, and you have the share of women in the sector.